before the meeting.
Just like you eat before you go shopping, or else everything looks good.
Yeah.
Your grocery bill goes up 75%.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let my hunger pains guide me.
Everyone see the picture of the TAPRC thing?
Did it make it back? Oh, it's up.
Oh,
there.
I just, you guys keep it up in the office, yeah.
Okay.
Open. I got here. I started signing chairs
See some Keith wants to see it.
to do what I usually do. Pull this back and put it on my computer. Because it's always at my phone. Why did it not show up? There it is. There we go.
I wonder how old those blinds are.
Just enough time to shut my phone up.
Good question.
Before I
They
forget.
look old.
Was it addressed to TAPRC?
Well, because we're talking about stuff at
Mhm.
upkeep and stuff.
Yeah.
Happens a lot.
I'd like to call the village council meeting to order. Rhonda, may I have roll call, please?
Mike Kramer,
Here.
Stephen Baldry,
Here.
Robert Bishop,
Here.
Richard Hamilton, Mackenzie Peters,
Here.
Kevin Smith,
Here.
Ann Williams.
Here.
All right, please rise for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everyone should have a copy of the agenda, the amended agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Support.
We have a motion to support to approve the amended agenda. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
We have a motion with support to approve the consent agenda, which includes the approval of the minutes for the regular council meeting of January 9th, 2024, and the approval of bills for January 17th for $107,172.92.
27.
$127.92.
$127.92.
We're close.
Any further discussion before we vote? Oh, we don't have any discussion. Ron, may I roll call, please?
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Kevin Smith,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Steve Baldry,
Aye.
Mike Kramer.
Aye. Motion carries. Any public comment? I will say that it is hard to remember how to run a meeting when you've been moving snow for the past 2 hours. No, we're good? All right, moving on to reserve time. Ms. Getty?
All right. Well, Happy New Year. We did not make any changes to leadership for the county commissioners. So Dave Jackson is still chair, Dave Hatfield is vice chair. And I take that as I think we have good leadership. And I think this will be, we have a lot to accomplish this year with COA and looking at our facilities, including the jail. So I'm glad to have both of those guys at the helm. We did approve a farmland preservation application for the Carpenter Farm. We did some reclassification of some public defender employees, staff members, and that was due to some requirements from the state to bring those in line with the prosecutor's office. We approved an application for a block grant funding, and this there's $200,000 for this block grant. Our grant administrator is quite positive. She's probably been in touch with you, right?
Mhm.
I think maybe you guys had to pass. Did you have to pass a resolution or
No,
something?
I wrote a letter in support of it. It's something
Yeah.
that I've worked with Marilyn on in the past as commissioner and
Mhm.
realtor in the past, so.
Well, this is a pretty unprecedented amount of money for this, for revitalization renovation grants for residents that are at least 51% of 51% low to moderate income eligible residents. And so that included the city of Hastings, Meadowville, Nashville, Woodland, Freeport, Delton, and Hickory Corners. So I did ask to stay in touch with what the application process is so that I can communicate that with you guys. Marilyn will probably be in touch with your village manager. I want to say Craig, but so we want to stay in touch so that your residents that are eligible know what projects would be eligible and what that application process is. That we did is we operate as a committee of the whole, much like you guys do. But there's been some interest in perhaps migrating to a committee structure again. I wasn't on when we did committees, but we did create the Personnel and Human Services Committee. The reason for that now is that we are expecting several major retirements this year of some critical positions, one being our county administrator, and so we're going to have to be doing some interviews. The other, I think, big benefit of going to this committee is that when we interview for boards and committee appointments, like Mental Health Board or Parks Board, they won't have to come into our regular meeting and really feel it's quite an intimidating structure. So we'll be able to do those in committees and make a recommendation to the whole board. So I'm really happy about that because I have not gotten positive feedback from applicants. And actually, I know applicants that were so uncomfortable with that scenario that they didn't want to, because we get a lot of public comment. We have a lot of sometimes hostility, at the meetings, and they're just don't want to be in that environment, for they have to be. So, any questions about what's happening at the county?
That Carpenter Farm, is that Larry Vanessa on
Yes,
Curtis Road?
I believe so. Yep.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
It's
Thanks.
nice to see
Yeah,
everybody.
good to see you.
It's a full table.
Yeah.
Those. Moving down to council and staff reports. Craig?
Good evening. Go Lions. So a couple, you have my report for you in front of you. We did solidify the dates for the the hazardous waste collection dates at the Berry Expo Center for May 18th and September 7th. Could always use volunteers there, especially this one in May. We're probably going to have, depending on, I'm going to bring this to you, of course, but recommendation to dispose of all of our excess IT equipment that we're not going to have need for any longer. So we could either do it that way, or we could put it out for auction or things like that. But I think that'd be a good way to go about that. But I'll bring that to you later. But if we do, we could use the help in getting it over there and getting it disposed of. Like that, so.
It's cheaper than getting a recycle company for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. Padnos does it. They charge the Solid Waste Oversight Committee for that service, and then they haul it away. So, let's see here. Next Tuesday, we have our workshop scheduled from noon till probably 8. We're going to have food for everybody. So please, come ready to work throughout that whole thing. I sent everybody a copy of the ICMA Code of Ethics per recommendation from Maryland. So take a look at that over the next week. Appreciate that. At our LDFA meeting last week, the LDFA board approved expenditure to move the power lines from the middle of the property at 36 State Street to the property lines between 36 State Street and TBC Church. So that we're working with consumers to get that completed, hopefully in the next 3 or 4 months. And then that'll make that more marketable moving forward. And we're going to reach out to developers again and let them know that, that is going to be completed. So, it should be more of an open space for folks to work with there. So, and then the only other addition I have, our incubator failed at the wastewater treatment plant, which is something, I don't know, used for incubating species of organisms that take care of the solid waste and things like that. So we got a quote to either repair it for $3,000 and get it repaired in about 2 months, or buy a new one for $5,300. So I'm gonna authorize that. So when you see the next bills the next month, you'll see that on there. Any questions?
So the 5,300 is something they have on hand. They can replace it
Yes.
in a short amount of time.
Yes.
Because if we go for 2 months without, we'd have to have plumbers come in.
We'd have to have,
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
another service come in and take care of that stuff for us.
Makes sense.
Yep, and this should last about 10 to 15 years with new rather than maybe 3
How
years
long, yeah.
repairing it, so.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Powers?
Good evening, council members. So as you can see, the previous month, there were a handful of permits, but not a lot. Believe it or not, in this weather, there's not a lot of construction going on. So we had a couple new dwellings permitted, along with 2 decks and a solar roof. Few of the other items going on. Currently, the council committee evaluating parking regulations. Numbers have been sent over to DPW so they can help prepare a cost estimate to some of the recommendations that have been discussed. So ideally, when the committee has a chance to evaluate those numbers, we can then prepare a memo to the council regarding what the potential options are for Misty Ridge and Rolling Oaks at an upcoming meeting with that supplemental data. Also, the Mid-Villa project, they just had their pre-construction meeting. No issues there. It's continuing to move forward. Yeah, that's pretty much what I've got for you. If anyone has any other questions. Next month, hopeful to bring the annual report. That'll be pending if Plan Commission needs any changes to it or not.
I have a question on the baby bliss. If you
Go
don't mind.
ahead.
Yep. How's the removal of the tanks and stuff so we can get that demolished?
So the removal of the tanks, the company that is to work with the demo company's timeline. The challenge is they were anticipating these buildings being demolished or primarily last week. They had submitted paperwork to us saying it was going to be done in January. However, we have had an unseasonably cold period this last week. So I did intend to reach out to them next week to get some updates that I can bring you at the next council meeting if we haven't seen any earth moving by that point.
Okay, thank you.
Their plan is to remove the tank after the buildings are down.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Be more space or a little bit easier to remove the tanks with buildings down, actually, so.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, they've been going back and forth on whether they can do it during that time or afterwards.
Any questions for Doug?
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Pergler.
Good evening, Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty small list today, because it's over December 16th and January 15th, so it was all the holidays and a lot of things. First item was the raise in the building on 12210, and that's already been talked about, so. Couple of dumpster placements, no big deal. I tagged them and they behaved for a few weeks, and we'll see what happens. Couple of overnight parking lots. The lot D is on High Street, and just tagged it. He does not have a permit. Then there was one on Lot A, which is the farmer's market. It hasn't been there since, so I haven't even seen the vehicle, so. Parking on right of way, a couple of them, but right at the moment, most of them were on. And I guess at this point, I'd rather have them on the right of way in the tree lawn between the street and the sidewalk rather than in the street. So I have not addressed that. Did a bunch of cleanup on permits, fences and decks and stuff, just to clear up some of those from the year end. Over that period of time, we didn't have any snow, but we've had snow. And I want to reach out and say, if you have neighbors or friends that need their sidewalk taken care of, the Boy Scouts are still doing it. Citizens, they have to call to get lined up on their list. And if you have people in your neighborhood that need to have their walk shoveled, tell them they got to get out there and do it, because it just needs to be taken care of. So, the one I did not write down, somehow it's so popular. It's right on Sheridan and East Main, and it's a truck that's been sitting there for months, and I've been trying to get in. They have till the 28th before I talk to the attorney's office and take our next step, which is, I guess we can impound it, just waiting for his approval. Did an overnight run on January 10th. That was just prior to the snowstorm. Well, it was during the snowstorm. And I issued 7 citations, violation, of traffic parking tickets. Most of them have already been paid, and I haven't seen them on the street. And there was one on Thornton Street that had a disabled vehicle plate, but it did belong to the car that it was on. So I turned it over to the sheriff's department, and they haven't caught up with it, but that just kind of irked me a little bit. That's my list. Comments, questions? Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Gretchen?
Good evening, council. There's a few things I want to mention that aren't specifically on my report. First and foremost, the DDA passed a new sign for White Oak Counseling, so we should be seeing that very soon going up on M37. And we have adopted a new partner program, as well as I've been working with Williams & Works, Nathan Mahed there, and the DDA approved the new TIF proposal. So there should be future conversations coming between council and the DDA, as well as Williams & Works, where we can have some joint sessions as well as educational periods, so we can all be up to date on how this process works, how the TIF will work in the future, and what can bring the best for the community. Additionally, we have board positions open. Those are something that will be appointed ideally before our next DDA meeting, so you should see that on your agenda sometime in the next few weeks. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let's see, for liaison reports, I went to the DDA meeting the first time. And the DDA is working on updating their bylaws, which is going to be something that we should all look at. And the LDFA, we're going to move power lines, and we're going to clear the easements that go with power lines. Can't hear me? Sorry. Nothing important, nothing terrible. All right.
The library committee.
The
did we
library
reschedule
committee
for that?
canceled,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah.
The library committee did approach Yankee Springs Township and they were unsuccessful in securing anything for helping with the study.
And the grant was debacled. I don't know if you heard that or not,
Not yet.
but they had applied for that grant. The administrative team that received the grant didn't pass it to the board, so we missed out on that grant opportunity. But they're looking at other options for that.
More to come.
Yep.
Next month's meeting. Okay, so now we are on to new business. Did anybody else meet? TAPRC?
I could not meet because I was at work,
Ah,
so I unfortunately was not able to go.
okay.
It was a long day.
Now we are on to Republic Services contract.
Okay, so I worked with Jack Brown to give you some updated numbers to propose, including in the contract renewal, and they're in front of you to ponder. If we want to go with that, we can. If you want to do something, there's an email. If you want to do every other week for the recycling, it would be $10.55 a month for that, if you wanted to include that also. Really not a whole lot of difference between the 65-gallon carts and the 95-gallon carts. And then the only additional consideration is for the spring cleanup. My thought would be to continue on this year with what we've done in the past with them going around. And then working out a solution moving forward with some standing containers and things like that. We're kind of close to the spring to try to figure that out differently, I think. I mean, we could probably make it work, but really it's up to council if you want to do something different or not at this point. But it would probably be close to $20,000 again to do the spring cleanup the way we've done it in the past, and then, probably closer to half of that. Figuring out a solution different moving forward. So, thoughts?
What's the, did you check to see like the price difference? I mean, these numbers haven't changed dramatically since Republic was picked as the
No.
service of choice many years ago.
It's kind of sad to not see a resident sitting there because he lives just outside of town. I showed him my Republic bill, and he's paying 40 to 45% more being just outside
Yeah.
the village. Like his bill was close to $100.
Wow.
So, we are getting a substantial price break to have the single hauler contract.
That's pretty impressive. I mean, that's an impressive difference, given it was what's working as intended.
Mm-hmm.
Might be able to apply that savings to water.
Absolutely.
Just kidding, public.
When they do the spring cleanup, are they anticipating getting scrap metal and that type of thing? When they charge us that 20,000, are they expecting to recover anything from what they pick up?
I don't know the answer to that, Steve. I can find out if they.
They don't get many recyclables.
I know, I mean,
No.
the moment one gets out,
Yeah.
somebody comes, grabs
One
it.
man's trash is
I
another
just wonder if
man's
they figure there's any kind of.
Well, I
Recovery
think
they're
most of the time the recovery comes from people coming from out of towns and just picking that stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
For real.
a lot of that stuff is gone before Republic even
so
gets
their
to it.
pickup price really is just picking it up and
Yes,
getting rid of it.
yes.
They don't plan on recovering any
No,
metal
I
or
don't think
anything.
they don't include that at all.
Oh, So in their policy, they retain ownership of whatever they pick up.
Yep.
Yeah, there's never. I mean, at least I know. in
It's
my
always
neighborhood,
gone. If there's
never
anything of value of anything,
anything that can be
even,
recycled.
I mean, oh my gosh.
Which is
I-
impressive. I mean,
Yeah.
saves a lot of. I mean, I think it's good for the environment to be able to recycle that stuff. But seriously, not a single shred of metal anywhere.
Or anything. We used to coordinate our evictions just so we could get all this stuff out right before. We've had carpet that was soaked and you don't even know what.
Like,
From
yes.
people,
Just
and
move it
it's
out.
just like, seriously?
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I put some junk out by the road. And I didn't even make it back to my pole barn that was going on.
Amen.
Well, if you don't see anything else that needs to be changed, I'll bring it to Jack and we'll get a revised contract for your consideration.
I have a question. Why is it they want to start at 6 in the morning instead of 7?
Just for schedule wise, for their guys, try to get them, they usually, I don't know, my waste hauler is like picking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I think. I don't know, I'm 37, but
I thought it always used to be 6.
for the ordinance, I think it's 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
So they would need a consideration if you wanted to do that. But
Makes sense, because last time this contract was up, the population was less. I mean, Seneca Ridge and all that's been developed within the last.
It takes,
5 years,
it takes a
yeah.
lot longer to get through the
Mhm.
village than it used to. So that's
I was just curious.
primarily what that's for, Steve.
I mean, that's going to be a significant difference of me running out in my pajamas in the rain. Pushing my garbage out because I almost missed the pick.
The night before.
Well, on occasion, I see those flashing lights and I'm like, wait, oh my gosh. I did all that. Late. I'll be late to my own funeral. It doesn't matter.
All right, barring any further discussion, a recommendation would be in order.
It's,
I'm not sure how you said that.
I can bring back a contract with these changes. Just let me know what you want. You want the two biweekly rate in there for the recycling, or you want to keep it the monthly?
I would think the amount of
Monthly.
complaints we've been getting about prices increasing, we just keep it the way it is for
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
And Mr. President, just throwing this out there, I think we should just, as stated, I think we could just let Craig make that decision and execute that agreement.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, please, for you to, as written, just execute the agreement.
Well, it'll-
Support.
It'll come back as a resolution, correct? Because it's contract. And then we'll have to adjust the ordinance so that we can
Yes,
allow them to come
yes,
in.
yes,
So
yes,
we'll
yes.
get for
Yeah, we'll
For
get
7.
that.
Yeah.
all that.
Okay, good. Very
So
good.
basically our motion is to move forward with preparing the contract.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a motion with support to move forward with preparing the contract to extend the services for public services. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Hooray.
Thank you.
Mr. Powers?
Thank you, Council. This is related to zoning board of appeals, current openings. As of right now, currently one opening. However, the other person that is mentioned, so Ms. Judy Cruz, her term expired last year. However, Eldon's position expires in March. The zoning board of appeals does not have any scheduled meetings prior to that timeframe. And both of those members have submitted application of interest to remain on the zoning board of appeals. So if you so considered approving both of these members, there would still be one opening on the zoning board of appeals. I don't know if you have any questions pertaining to this or anything outside of what I mentioned. So
The-
these are the applicants that we've received today.
We did advertise that out there and we only
Yes.
received those back. And Eldon submitted one for LDFA mistakenly, but he's gonna resubmit
Yeah,
ZBA, so.
and it's okay if we hadn't, but I was just curious, did we post the positions online, like our social media, since
Mhm.
most people?
Yes, they've
No,
been
they've been-
posted for
They've been
3 months.
they've been
At least?
posted online probably since before Christmas.
Yeah.
And then since the applications were
Minimal.
nothing,
Right.
we did put them in the paper last weekend, I believe.
Yeah, our
But they've been
social-
on our social media, they've been on our website, yeah, posted.
Right,
They're
It was
everywhere.
on there so long it expired. We had to
Mhm.
re-up it.
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah, they're everywhere.
I'll share it for you.
I will make the motion that we approve the appointment of Judy Cruz to a 3-year term as the alternate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals and Eldon Newmeyer to the 3-year term as a regular member of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Do we need 2 separate motions because it's 2 people?
Hmm.
Okay.
Support.
Okay.
We got 2 supports. All right, we have a motion with support to approve the recommended appointees to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I'll just stick right here for this one, if that's all right.
You have a microphone, that's okay.
So similarly, the LDFA appointment or the citizen at large it's not a citizen at large, it's a industrial business member, excuse me,
Thank you.
who has typically been the president or CEO of Bradford White that serves on LDFA. Pete Catula, his term does expire in March. Did reapply. We did not advertise this out to the general public. We could if you'd like us to. Council has always wanted somebody from Bradford White to sit on this, so would be my recommendation to keep him serving on there. But it's up to council if you want to do something different with that.
My only thing is just keeping it consistent, across all of the boards we make appointments to is advertising the position. Even though more than likely it'd still be Bradford White, we still want to provide that opportunity for application.
Our LDFA agreement is close to sunset. We're trying to decide if we're even going to keep it moving.
Hmm.
So to find someone that would fill a potentially short-term role, I think we felt it was just better to keep it the way it was, especially since Bradford White has the most vested interest in the LDFA, of all the businesses in town. But I mean, if we do extend the agreement of the LDFA, we could definitely look at that for future appointments. But this one, we just stuck with who we had for the time being. So if that's all right.
I mean.
It's really up to council how,
When does it sunset?
25. Yep.
Oh, 2025. Okay.
Makes sense.
There's not a whole, just so council's aware, most of the projects that were initially in the plan for the purposes of creating the LDFA have been either completed or are going to be completed very soon. The
Crane Road Bridge.
Crane Road Bridge was the number one, and that had the most buy-in from the outside entities from Thornapple Township, Berry County, Grand Rapids Community College, and things like that. So that's been completed. The High Street project is going to be completed this year. We have one other major-ish project that we'll have proposed for the LDFA before it sunsets, which will be completing Railroad Street. Everything else, as far as expanding the industrial zone and things like that, really has not come to fruition. The industrial zone is really kind of landlocked right now, unless we annex properties outside of the industrial zone. And there are not, at this point, any, neighbors that are really interested in selling and or us doing that right now. So it either dies or, expires as President Kramer says, or we, fulfill other ways of doing that in a very short period of time. So. But we typically have had, and I think the entire history of the LDFA has had the president of Bradford White sitting on there. So.
I'll make a motion to approve the appointment of Peter Catula to a 4-year term to the LDFA.
Support.
I have a motion with support to reappoint Peter Catula to a 4-year term to the LDFA. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. All right. In your packet, you should have the draft minutes for the DDA meeting from January 16th, Housing Commission minutes from November 21st, 2023. You have the DDA revenue and expense report. You have the local government law bulletin. We are down to our final public comment session.
I'll give a little update on TAPRC since we didn't have a member present. So we've had quite a bit of transition with the board, with new appointments coming from the village as well. We did post the registration for youth baseball and softball this season. Nathan and Lindsay Fisher are serving as co-program directors for that. Lindsay is a vice principal at the middle school, and Nathan is he's not a third grade teacher anymore. Don't know quite what his title, but he's still at the elementary school. So they really are a great fit for the community. We're seeking sponsorships for our teams right now. That I sent that email out on Sunday, and so we attempt to get a business to sponsor every team. That helps with the cost of overall registration, but maintaining the fields, porta johns, insurance, all those extra expenses. And we did elect Eric Schaefer as the chair, and we postponed the vice chair election because we had two members that weren't sworn in yet, with Mackenzie and Tyler Wenger from the school. So we wanted to wait until we had a complete board before we made that election. We did elect Damon Cove, one of the new members, as secretary. And I had expressed that this was going to be my last year on TAPRC, so I wanted to give this opportunity to have new leadership on the board. It's Emily Dock's last year as well, and so this gives us a year of transition where we can be there to support but help develop the new leadership team.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I do have to be sworn in then.
The direction from our office was as a liaison, I didn't need to swear her in. Okay.
They needed to be appointed, and
Yeah.
she wasn't appointed at the time of our last meeting, I don't think.
It was at our
The
meeting.
night before.
It was the night before, so the intent is that Ann would go one more time. So our minutes read that Mackenzie is our liaison as of February meeting. Yeah.
And Tyler Wenger had not been appointed yet.
Gotcha.
That was the following Monday, so.
Okay, makes
We were down
sense.
2 board members. I still think. I
Makes
stand
sense.
behind the decision. I
Yeah.
think we still want to wait.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Final council comment? Anybody like to start?
I just have a question.
Sure.
I work part-time at the car parts store here in town, because I'm semi-retired, so to speak. I have a couple people that are badgering me for the ORV ordinance, when that's gonna be finished. And I told them I don't know. The decision though was that before I was on this council. But, one guy is pretty adamant about it.
We should,
If I went to the GIS site and looked, he's outside the village limits.
Mhm.
So,
He's probably the same guy that is complaining about his Republic bill being way higher than ours too.
yeah.
Which is why I was kind of hoping you'd be here.
Yeah,
right,
I think you know what I mean. So hopefully they've taken the right tack is what I'm asking some advice, I guess.
Yeah.
So
we should have a draft by the end of the week from our attorney, so attorney time, maybe week and a half, 2 weeks, but soon.
Probably in the next couple of
Yeah.
meetings.
And I'm fine with that. I was just curious how, how you could, I know we're not trying to we try not to engage in a conversation outside.
Well, and any questions like that can also be directed to the office too, or me, or anybody there too. If it's something you can't answer, or you're not sure, you can, always say, I'm not sure, but let me get back with you, or, feel free to reach out to the office too. It's always accessible.
Another big component of that issue is something that Doug is working through, is how we write tickets in the village. We have some issues with the process that Doug's trying to correct to make it less of a cumbersome item for law enforcement to be able to write a village ticket.
I'm in my house the 25th year this year. About 20 years ago approximately, the snowmobiles would run around, but because they didn't want their skis and cleats on the track and stuff on the pavement, they cut through your yard.
Or the sidewalk.
Yeah. They ran over my wife's flowers, some saplings. This one guy, one night, he comes roaring through the front yard. There's a fire hydrant right there at the corner. He split that perfect with those skis and went over the handlebars. And said, "Are you all right?" "Yeah." And cut him down to death. And then about 2 weeks later, I had a guy cut through the backyard, which we go from Russell to Cherry Street, so we're 330 foot deep. And we got that stream that goes through the back. He didn't know there was a stream back there.
Found out
He
pretty
towed
quick.
right into the bank. Another guy went, had a little work getting that one out. But,
That's a good,
and now just this last week, they're back again, even though we have an ordinance. It says,
well, good thing snowmobiles aren't on the ordinance. They're ATVs, not ORVs.
Well,
So,
they're technically ORVs. They still need to be permitted as an ORV
but
to
they're
use the
not,
trails.
I've
according
been
to
looking
the
at the
state, they're not.
Secretary of State, trying to get a definition of an ORV. And it would appear, and again, I'm no expert, and I'm just looking, that anything that doesn't have license plates can be classified ORV.
Yeah, that includes snowmobiles, dirt bikes, everything.
Well,
ATVs, four-wheelers.
Go-karts.
Golf carts,
Golf
go-karts,
carts. All of them are.
tractors.
Sometimes.
So I was just more or less trying to look for a little advice on you talk to people about some of this stuff.
Not trying to push it off, just trying to get all of the moving components together so
Sure.
we can make a good decision, because
That's what I said. It takes a while, and plus it has to be read. I use the 911 tower as an excuse, or not excuse, but as an example. That after we read through it and Robert found out the demolition cost wasn't in there and so on. I called demolition. taking it back up. So he seemed to be okay. But he comes in about twice a week. And he's,
Well, make it Craig's problem. That's my recommendation. And you don't have to hear about it anymore.
I have broad
it's
shoulders.
actually, it's quite entertaining sometimes.
Thank goodness government's not fast, otherwise we'd burn this entire universe down.
thank you, Stephen. Anybody else? All right, no volunteers. Kevin?
Go Lions.
Everybody wants to jinx them.
Just on bended knee, I am going to raise up my hopes and aspirations for that team next week.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
I have nothing.
Dick? Good? Mackenzie?
just to thank the DPW team for all their effort last week during the snowstorm. So,
Yeah,
Mine too.
we had a few hours of overtime last
I
weekend.
bet. But they did a good job. so
They did
I
a
wanted to
great
thank
job.
them.
Well, since we didn't use any in November or December, I think we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
Bob?
Well, with the big snowstorm, plows come through my neighborhood, plowed everyone in. And some kind citizen come in and knocked the end out of everyone's driveway and piled it up on their yard. And I don't know who it is, but if there's some sort of non-denominational sainthood I could nominate them for.
It's everything on the internet.
Other than that, just go Lions.
Look, I'm as excited as everybody else that there's a Detroit team that is kicking the living snot out of a Tampa Bay team. I was hoping to be the Red Wings, but I will take the Lions. But let's not screw this up. For those of us that have been painfully watching since the 90s, we'd like to keep it rolling. So,
Amen.
Red Wings won Sunday too.
well, yeah, let's twist that a little bit. First time in how long?
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about father-daughter dance is quickly approaching. It's with the kids. And it's great fundraiser for us that helps us keep the fields green, keeps the Porta Johns there. Lets us buy a couple nets. And this year we got a robotic field painter because getting volunteers is difficult at best. And if we can wrestle those volunteers into refereeing instead of painting fields, then we might be able to keep running with the volunteers we have and not burn the one we have out. So with that being said, our robot paints logos. So if you have a business that would like to sponsor a soccer field, that is a new option this year. We will put your logo in the center circle of the pitch, and it will be your field for a nominal fee. So,
Skynet in Middleville.
that's right. Other than that, I've got nothing. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. The motion will be in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support. We have a motion with support to adjourn the meeting. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.